Every morning when we wake up, we are given a brand new page in the diary of our life. The question is, will we let others write on it, or will we pick up the pen ourselves? Happiness is not something that just falls into our lap. It is not something others hand us on a silver plate. Happiness is a choice, and like every choice, it requires effort. Just as we push our body to stay fit and our mind to stay sharp, we must also push our heart to stay happy. Because happiness is not just a mood, it is a responsibility we owe to our own soul and to the God who gifted us this life. Me friends, happiness is not an accident. It is not found in wealth, possessions, or applause. It is cultivated from within. When we align our life with higher values, when we remember that God has not sent us here to live in constant stress and sorrow, but to experience the beauty of every moment. Yet in the chaos of daily life, we often let our joys slip away. We wait for perfect conditions, for everything to align, before we allow ourselves to smile. But happiness doesn't come after achievement. It fuels achievement. Happiness doesn't come after peace. It creates peace. And today, I want to share with you how pushing yourself just a little every day can open the door to a lasting and God-centered happiness that no challenge can take away. Gratitude is one of the most underestimated yet most powerful keys to happiness. And yet, so many people miss it in their daily lives. We often think happiness will arrive when life becomes perfect, when every problem disappears, when every desire is fulfilled. But happiness does not wait for perfection, because life itself will never be perfect. Life is a beautiful mixture of ups and downs, of victories and lessons, of smiles and tears. The real art is to learn to be happy in the middle of it all, and gratitude is what makes that possible. Gratitude is not about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. Gratitude is about choosing to notice the light even when there is darkness around. It is about looking at what God has already placed in our lives and saying, "Thank you." Think about it. How often do we wake up in the morning and rush straight into our day without pausing to recognize the miracle of being alive? The very breath you took this morning is a gift. The eyes with which you see the world, the ears with which you hear music, the legs with which you walk, the mind with which you think, none of these are things we paid for. They are blessings from God, freely given, yet often taken for granted. Many people are lying in hospital beds today, wishing for the simple ability to breathe without help, to walk without support, to see clearly, to hear properly. What you already have, someone else is praying for. Gratitude shifts your perspective from, "I don't have enough," to "I already have more than I deserve." And that shift alone fills the heart with peace. Let me share a small story. A man once complained daily that his shoes were old and torn. Every morning he grumbled, "Why is life so unfair? Why can't I afford new shoes? Everyone else has better things than me." His friend listened patiently, and one day, while walking together, they passed by a man who had no feet. In that moment, the man with old shoes fell silent. His complaints dissolved into shame, and his eyes filled with tears of realization. That day he learned a lesson that changed him forever. There will always be something missing if we focus only on what we don't have, but there will always be happiness if we focus on what we do have. Gratitude is that lens that transforms how we see life. Gratitude is not just about material things, it's also about the relationships we have. How often do we thank the people closest to us? A simple thank you to your parents for their sacrifices, to your spouse for their patience, to your friends for their support, to your children for the joy they bring. These little acknowledgements strengthen bonds and multiply happiness. Gratitude is contagious. When you express it, it not only uplifts your heart, but also uplifts the heart of the one who receives it. A thankful heart creates a thankful environment, and a thankful environment creates lasting happiness. But gratitude is not always easy. When challenges strike, when disappointments come, when pain feels unbearable, the natural tendency is to complain, to ask, "Why me?" But here is where the real power of gratitude lies, not in thanking God only when everything is smooth, but in thanking Him even in the storm. Because even in difficulty, there is hidden good. Every setback carries a lesson, every hardship shapes character, every challenge strengthens resilience. Gratitude in pain does not mean denying the pain. It means trusting that God is working through it for a higher purpose. When we push ourselves to be grateful in difficulties, happiness does not abandon us. Instead, it becomes deeper, more mature, more unshakable. For example, imagine someone losing their job. At first, it feels like the end of the world. The mind says, "This is unfair, this is terrible, why did this happen to me?" But with gratitude, the perspective shifts. Maybe this is God's way of redirecting me to something better. Maybe this is an opportunity to grow, to discover a new skill, to start something new. And when such a person looks back years later, they often say, "That painful ending was actually the beginning of my greatest blessing." Gratitude doesn't always change the situation, but it changes the way we walk through it. And that change makes all the difference between misery and peace. Daily life offers countless opportunities to practice gratitude. When you eat your food, pause and remember the farmer who grew it, the rain that watered it, the hands that cooked it, and the God who created it. When you lie down to sleep, remember there are people who don't have a safe bed. When you wake up in the morning, remember there are people who didn't live to see another sunrise. Gratitude does not require something grand. It is found in the small, simple, ordinary blessings that are actually extraordinary when we open our eyes to see them. Happiness is not about having everything, but about appreciating everything. The more you practice gratitude, the more happiness grows naturally in your heart. It is like watering a plant. Every thank you whisper is a drop of water that nurtures the tree of joy within you. A grateful heart becomes light. It stops carrying the burden of comparison. It stops chasing what is missing, and it learns to rest in what is already present. Gratitude aligns you with the divine rhythm of life, because when you thank God sincerely, your soul connects with His presence in the purest way. One of the biggest thieves of happiness is comparison. It sneaks into our hearts so quietly that most of the time we don't even notice it happening. We look at what others are doing, what others are wearing, where others are traveling, and how others are living, and suddenly our own life, which once felt enough, begins to feel small, incomplete, and disappointing. The truth is, comparison will always leave you unhappy because it blinds you from appreciating your unique journey and makes you live in the shadow of someone else's. Happiness is not found in being better than others, but in being true to the person God designed you to be. From childhood, we are conditioned to measure ourselves against others. Who scored more marks in school? Who got the better job? Who drives the bigger car? Who lives in a bigger house? Society constantly whispers that our worth depends on being ahead in this endless race. But here is the wisdom we often forget. Life is not a competition, it is a journey. And every journey has a different map, a different pace, a different destination. When you compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, of course you will feel discouraged. But God didn't create you to live someone else's story. He created you to live your own, with its own beauty, its own timing, and its own lessons. Think of a garden. In a garden you see roses, lilies, sunflowers, and lotuses. Each flower blooms in its own season. Imagine a sunflower comparing itself to a rose. Why am I not red? Why don't I bloom earlier? That would be absurd, because the sunflower was never meant to be a rose. Its strength, its beauty, its uniqueness lies in being a sunflower. The same is true for us. When we compare, we insult our own uniqueness. But when we embrace who we are, we allow our own fragrance to spread into the world. Let me give you a simple example from daily life. A young woman once told me she was unhappy because her friend, who was her same age, had bought a house while she was still renting a small apartment. Every time she saw her friend's pictures online, she felt less successful, less worthy. But when we spoke deeper, I asked her, "Tell me about your own life." She smiled and said, "Well, I may not own a house yet, but I recently started my own business, and I've been able to travel to places I always dreamed of." Do you see the irony? She was so focused on what she lacked compared to her friend that she couldn't see the richness of her own journey. The moment she shifted her vision inward, gratitude replaced envy, and peace replaced restlessness. This is the trap comparison sets. It makes you blind to your own blessings. Comparison also steals happiness because it's endless. There will always be someone richer, more talented, more popular, more accomplished. If you measure yourself against others, you will never rest, because there will always be another benchmark, another standard. But if you measure yourself against your own past, if you look at how much you have grown, how much you have learned, how much you have overcome, then happiness will flow naturally, because the only competition worth having is with the person you were yesterday. Social media has made this even harder, because everywhere we look, we see people's highlight reels, perfect vacations, flawless pictures, exciting achievements. But remember, what people show online is rarely the whole story. Behind those smiling photos, people carry their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own silent battles. If you compare your reality with someone else's filtered image, of course you will feel inadequate. But the truth is, no one's life is as perfect as it looks from the outside. God didn't send you to earth to be a copy of another person. He sent you to shine your own light. Happiness blooms when we learn to celebrate others without diminishing ourselves. If someone succeeds, let it inspire you instead of making you jealous. Think, if God can bless them, He can bless me too. In my own way, in my own time, joy shared multiplies but envy divides. When you detach from comparison, you free your heart to genuinely enjoy both your own journey and the journeys of those around you. You stop seeing life as a ladder where one must be above the other, and you start seeing it as a vast field where everyone has their own space to blossom. Detaching from comparison doesn't mean you stop growing or improving yourself. It means you grow from a place of inspiration, not insecurity. It means you strive to be the best version of yourself, not a reflection of someone else. For example, if you admire someone's discipline in fitness, let it motivate you to take care of your own body, not to hate your body because it doesn't look like theirs. If you admire someone's success in career, let it remind you of your own potential, not to belittle your current progress. Inspiration lifts you, comparison breaks you. The choice between the two is always in your hands. Service is one of the purest expressions of happiness. Because when you give without expecting, you step into the flow of something divine. In our world today, we are constantly told that happiness comes from what we get: our salary, our possessions, our achievements, our recognition. But the truth is, the deepest form of joy does not come from getting, it comes from giving. When you serve selflessly, you experience a joy that no material success can ever provide. Because in that moment, you are not just living for yourself, you are becoming an instrument of God's love in the life of another. Think about how you feel when you genuinely help someone. It could be something as simple as giving food to a hungry person, listening with compassion to a friend who is hurting, or offering your time to support someone in need. That warm feeling in your heart, that quiet smile that appears on your face, it is happiness in its purest form. You cannot buy that feeling, you cannot force it, you cannot fake it. It flows naturally when you serve without expecting anything in return. That is the magic of selfless service. It fills not only the person receiving, but also the one giving. Many people chase happiness in complicated ways, but service shows us that happiness is actually simple. A small act of kindness can change someone's day and at the same time transform your own. For example, imagine you are standing in line at a grocery store and you notice the person ahead of you struggling to pay for their items. Without overthinking, you step forward and quietly cover the difference. The gratitude in their eyes, the relief in their smile, that moment creates a memory far deeper than anything you could have bought for yourself. This is because service awakens the soul, reminding us that life is not just about what we can take, but also about what we can contribute. Sometimes we think, I will serve when I have more time, more money, more resources. But service is not about what you have, it is about what you do with what you have. Even a kind word is service. Even a patient ear is service. Even a genuine smile offered to someone who feels invisible is service. Happiness comes when we realize that we don't need grand gestures to make a difference. Small, sincere acts done with love carry immense power. There was once a story of a boy walking along a beach filled with thousands of starfish washed ashore. He began picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the sea. A man saw him and said, "Why are you wasting your time? There are too many starfish here. You can't possibly save them all." The boy picked up another starfish, threw it into the water, and said, "I may not save them all, but I made a difference to that one." That is the essence of service. You may not change the entire world, but you can change someone's world. And in doing so, you experience a happiness that is unmatched. Service also heals our own pain. Many times, when people feel low, depressed, or disconnected, their focus is inward. They are trapped in their own thoughts, their own problems. But the moment you step outside yourself and help another, your perspective shifts. You realize that others too are struggling. You see their burdens, their tears, their silent battles. And in helping them, you begin to heal yourself. Service becomes a form of medicine, not only for others but also for your own soul. Let's take an example. Imagine a person going through a difficult time in life. Maybe they lost a job or they feel isolated. One day, they volunteer at a shelter to distribute food. At first, they feel they are helping others, but as they see the smiles, the gratitude, the resilience of people who have much less, their own pain begins to feel lighter. They return home with a heart that is calmer, more grateful, more alive. That is the paradox of service. You think you are giving, but in reality, you are receiving. True service comes when we don't look for recognition. Often, People serve but secretly desire acknowledgement or praise. The purest joy of service comes when it is done quietly, without the need for applause. A tree gives shade without asking for thanks. A river quenches thirst without expecting appreciation. In the same way, when we serve because it is our nature, not because we want something back, we tap into a happiness that is divine. Service also connects us with God because God is love, and love is expressed through service. Every time you serve, you align yourself with that higher energy. You become a channel through which God's compassion flows into the world. That is why saints and wise teachers throughout history have always emphasized service. It is not just about helping others. It is about purifying our own hearts, dissolving our ego, and experiencing oneness with all beings. When you look back at your life one day, you won't remember the expensive things you owned, but you will remember the lives you touched. You won't remember the recognition you received, but you will remember the gratitude in someone's eyes. You won't remember the trophies, but you will remember the moments when you made someone feel less alone, less burdened, more loved. And in those memories, you will find the truest form of happiness. The greatest treasure of life is hidden in something so simple, yet most of us overlook it. The present moment. We are always running towards the future, running away from the past. And in this constant race, we forget the only place where happiness truly lives now. The mind is like a restless traveler, wandering endlessly between regrets of yesterday and worries of tomorrow. And because of this, we often fail to see the beauty standing right in front of us. To live in the present is to awaken, to open your eyes fully, and to taste the richness of life that is already here. Think about how often you catch yourself replaying old mistakes. The mind whispers, I should have done this differently. I should have chosen another path. But no amount of replaying can rewrite what has already passed. The past is a closed chapter. We can only take lessons from it, not live in it. And then the mind jumps into the future. What if I fail tomorrow? What if something goes wrong? What if I never succeed? But the future is a blank page. It has not yet been written. Worrying about it is like fearing a story that hasn't even been told. Between these two illusions lies the present moment, a gift so precious that even its name reminds us. It is called the present because it is indeed a gift, and happiness is found when we choose to live it fully. Imagine sitting with your family at dinner. Instead of enjoying the laughter, the warmth, the food, your mind is busy scrolling through messages or worrying about tomorrow's meeting. The moment is happening, but you are not there. Later, you may regret saying, I should have been more present. That is how life slips away, not in years, but in moments we fail to live. When we push ourselves to stay present, we realize that every small experience, even the simple act of drinking water, carries a taste of peace when savored fully. Children are our best teachers in this. Watch a child play. They are not thinking about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's responsibilities. They are immersed in the game, fully alive in that moment. That is why their laughter feels so pure. As we grow older, we lose this ability, burying ourselves under layers of worry, fear, and regret. But we can reclaim it by consciously bringing our mind back to now. Happiness doesn't live in the next milestone. It breathes in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this very second. Consider an example. A man spends years chasing success, always telling himself, I will be happy when I get promoted, when I buy a house, when I retire. Decades pass and he achieves all those things. Yet when he looks back, He realizes he missed the joy of the journey. He missed the sweetness of playing with his children because he was too busy working. He missed the beauty of sunrises because he was too busy rushing. He missed countless smiles, countless little blessings, waiting for happiness to come later. But later never came because happiness was always waiting in the present. Living in the moment does not mean neglecting responsibilities or ignoring the future. It means fulfilling those responsibilities with presence and not letting fear of the future steal the joy of today. When you are at work, be at work with focus. When you are with family, be with them wholeheartedly. When you are praying or meditating, be with God completely. The more present you are, the deeper your happiness becomes. We all have memories of moments when we were fully present, watching a sunset, listening to a song, sitting by the ocean, holding the hand of someone we love. Those moments felt timeless, as if everything was perfect. That is the power of presence. It transforms ordinary experiences into extraordinary ones. The food doesn't have to be grand. The company doesn't have to be perfect. Presence itself makes the moment sacred. Let me share another perspective. Imagine you are holding a glass of water. If your mind is in the past, you are not tasting it. If your mind is in the future, you are not experiencing it. But when you sip with full awareness, you notice its coolness, its freshness, and gratitude naturally arises. That glass of water becomes a source of joy, not just a routine act. This is how presence turns simple acts into spiritual experiences. The present moment is also where we meet God most deeply. When the mind is racing into past or future, we miss His presence. But when we are still, when we are fully here, we feel His energy flowing through us. In the silence of now, you realize that you are not alone, that life itself is divine, that happiness is not something to search for. It is something to awaken to. Happiness built on the past is fragile because memories fade. Happiness built on the future is uncertain because the future is unknown. But happiness built on the present is strong because it is real, it is happening now, and no one can take it away from you. Even in difficult times, the present moment has something to offer. Maybe a lesson, maybe strength, maybe just the gift of breath. And when you anchor yourself here, challenges feel lighter because you are not burdened by the weight of what was or the fear of what will be. The mind is like a fertile field. Whatever seeds we plant in it, that is what will grow. If we allow negativity, anger, and doubt to take root, they will spread like weeds and choke our joy. But if we discipline ourselves to plant thoughts of positivity, faith, and hope, the garden of our mind will blossom with peace and happiness. Happiness does not come by accident. It comes by training the mind just as we train the body. Just as we exercise daily to keep our muscles strong, we must practice daily to keep our thoughts pure because the quality of our thoughts shapes the quality of our life. Many times people say, I cannot help the way I think. Negativity just comes naturally. But that is not entirely true. Negativity is like an untrained horse, wild, restless, and easily distracted. If you let it run without guidance, it will take you to dangerous places. But with discipline, patience, and persistence, that same horse can be tamed and guided to move in the right direction. Similarly, the mind requires training. You cannot control what thoughts arrive, but you can control which thoughts you choose to feed. And whichever thoughts you feed will grow stronger. Think of an ordinary day. You wake up in the morning, and the first thought could be, today will be stressful, full of problems. That single thought sets the tone for the entire day. But if you push yourself to begin the day with a positive thought, Today is a new opportunity. I will do my best. I will remain calm. That too sets a completely different tone. The external events of the day may be the same, but your inner experience will be entirely different, because your thoughts determine how you interpret reality. For example, imagine two people stuck in traffic. One person sits frustrated, angry at the delay, honking impatiently, and feeling his day is ruined. Another person in the exact same situation uses the time to listen to soothing music, to reflect quietly, or even to pray. The external event is identical, but the inner experience is worlds apart. What made the difference? The discipline of choosing positivity instead of surrendering to negativity. Happiness is not found in controlling every circumstance. It is found in controlling how we respond to those circumstances. Of course, negativity will try to sneak in. The mind will say, "You are not good enough. Things will never change. Life is unfair." But here is where discipline is needed. When these thoughts arise, you do not have to believe them. Instead, you can pause, take a breath, and replace them with affirmations of truth. I am learning. I am growing. Life has challenges, but God has also given me strength. This replacement is not denial, it is redirection. Just as a driver steers a car away from danger, you can steer your mind away from destructive thoughts and towards constructive ones. Discipline also means protecting the mind from what you feed it daily. Just as junk food damages the body, negative information damages the mind. Constantly consuming gossip, criticism, or fear-based news fills the mind with heaviness. On the other hand, feeding the mind with uplifting books, meaningful conversations, time with nature, and moments of prayer fills it with light. You have the power to decide what enters your mental space. And that decision is an act of discipline that shapes your happiness. There is a simple daily practice that illustrates this well. At the end of each day, before sleeping, reflect on 3 positive things that happened. They could be small. Maybe someone smiled at you. Maybe you completed a task. Maybe you enjoyed a good meal. By consciously training the mind to notice positives, you rewire your brain to focus on gratitude instead of complaints. Over time, positivity becomes your natural default, just as negativity once was. Let me share a story. A farmer had 2 dogs, one black and one white. They were always fighting. A neighbor once asked, "Which dog wins the fight?" The farmer smiled and said, "The one I feed the most." The same is true with our thoughts. If we feed doubt, fear, and anger, they will dominate us. But if we feed kindness, hope, and faith, they will grow stronger and lead us. The choice is ours every single day. Choosing positivity with discipline does not mean ignoring problems or pretending life is perfect. It means facing reality with strength instead of despair. It means saying, "Yes, this is difficult, but I will not let it destroy my peace." It means trusting that even in the darkest night, the dawn is on its way. Discipline helps us hold on to this perspective when the mind tries to drag us into negativity. The beauty of positivity is that it not only transforms your inner world, it transforms your outer world as well. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate hope and joy. Your energy becomes contagious. By choosing positivity, you don't just uplift yourself, you uplift everyone around you. A kind word, a patient smile, a calm response in a heated situation. All of these are acts of discipline that spread happiness like ripples in a pond.